Hello and welcome to this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. And I'm thrilled, honored, humbled, and grateful to have with me today Matt Millen. Matt has been considered one of the top sales leaders by his peers in the industry and is currently the Chief Revenue Officer of FLEXE. He's responsible for driving business growth initiatives and revenue rainmaking opportunities, overseeing the sales development, business development, and client success teams over at FLEXE, the on-demand warehousing solution. He's got extensive experience in strategic planning, customer experience design, sales innovation, and prior to FLEXE, Matt was the Senior VP of Revenue at a small, tiny startup called Outreach.io. He's also held VP positions at multiple companies like T-Mobile, Tony Robbins companies, and government acquisitions, among many others. Matt, really excited to dive into your background. Thanks so much for joining us today.
So great to be with you today. This is awesome.
Yeah, really. Dude, I want to hear crazy stories about working with Tony Robbins, working at Outreach. I'm so excited to dive in and just to set the stage. So the audience is dying to know two things. Number one, Matt, you've worked at some of the fastest growing companies in the world. What is your number one top sales secret to maximize your sales success? And we're going to save that to the end of the interview. But to kick things off, the audience is dying to know, who is Matt Millen? How'd you get started in sales? Where'd you come from? I'd love to get a background, and then let's go through every place that you've sold for and the biggest micro secrets, learnings, takeaways that you've had at each of these different organizations that you've had the opportunity to drive revenue growth for. So without further ado, Mr. Matt Millen, give us a quick background on where you're from and how you got started in sales.
Yeah, let's have some fun with that today. Got out of college in '86. Most of your listeners weren't born yet. That's okay. And I started off at a bank. I was a branch manager in the making, and I had a roommate at the time who was in sales. And I'm a branch manager. I'm making $18,000 a year. And my roommate was in sales making $18,000 a year. But then something happened at the end of the month. My roommate got paid again. This thing called commission. I didn't get paid again. Then my starts winning trips and TVs and all these incentives. And I took a hard look at making $18,000 a year. My roommate, who wasn't any better than I was, he just had a way better occupation than I did. So I made a decision to get into sales. And in 1987, I started selling down in Tampa, Florida.
That's a fun place to sell it.
Amen. This is before email. This is before the internet. This is before you had a mobile phone. And, we did it the old-fashioned way. We picked up the phone in the morning and we set meetings, and then we ran our meetings in the afternoon. We called it, set a few, run a few, and sell a few every day.
Set a few, run. What was that? Set a few. Say that again.
Set a few, run a few, and then sell a few every single day.
Wow. So was it literally just picking up the phone and dialing through where'd you get the numbers? Did they give you
3 places? We had really crusty, dusty old trade show leads. But it was a place to start. We literally had the yellow pages, and my secret was I would get the Better Business Bureau in the local area, and then I would call all the companies because they're chunked out by categories of plumbers, electricians, and then I would have a special just for them for being a Better Business Bureau member.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Down by category, and just have a good time with it.
Yeah, so you were doing account-based persona targeting back in the day, probably before that was even a thing.
Yeah, I was hungry.
That's awesome. I love this micro secret, creating a special. You created a special offer for the category that you were selling to back then.
Yeah, my magic secret at the time was, if anyone can remember the old laser jet printers, the first laser printers, they required this huge $125 toner they went through. So I would put together a 6-pack of toners. And there were 2 great things about that. One, I would call up companies that didn't do business with me, and everyone needed toner.
Right.
Well, I would have a toner special just to introduce. I'd hand deliver the 6 toners, and it was a $100 commission check. So I could introduce myself to somebody personally and make $100 a day getting my foot in the door.
Dude, I love that. That's genius. It's like a cross-sell, upsell packaging. Incredible. So, and by the way, what was your roommate selling?
My roommate was selling computers for a company called, I think it was like Nico or NEC company up in the Boston area at the time.
It's awesome. That's great. So Tampa. So you lived in Tampa. You were selling. Now, was that when you got into like Tech Data Corporation?
Yeah. So I got over to Tech Data. Did a number of different roles. I was at Tech Data for 7 years. I joined when they just turned $2 billion and left when they were $16 billion. So it was a great run.
That's insane.
My last quota when I was at Tech Data was $2.2 billion a year.
Like literally, your sales quota is over $1 billion.
19. So like I was responsible for a bunch of great folks that had to do $2.2 billion.
Damn.
We were doing north of $10 million a day. We're having a great time.
What?
But I'll tell you what I learned at Tech Data. Tech Data was where I learned to appreciate two things in life that had massive impact on my career. The first was getting a mentor. I had a great mentor who saw my potential, but also saw how rough I was. I was one of those. I was way too confident, way too cocky. I thought I knew way too much. And, the truth is I wasn't good. I wasn't that good. And I needed someone to really invest in me, like chisel off my corners. And a lady named Terry Haggerty, who I owe so much of my career to, really took the time to invest in me as a person, as a leader, and as a contributor. So I'm always grateful for her. And then the other thing I picked up at Tech Data was the power of a peer group. I worked with tremendously sharp people. And while I was a director over at Tech Data, I identified 5 other directors. Some of them were in sales and some of them were in other parts of the organization. We met every single month for lunch. And I identified these folks as like if you could buy stock in 5 other people, buy stock in these folks. And we met every month, and just as an organization ourselves, really developed and supported each other. So the power of mentorship and the power of peer group was one of the biggest gifts that I was able to take from my time at Tech Data.
Wow, I love that. And the peer group are just other directors of sales at Tech Data that you guys...
Director of sales, one was a director of credit, one was in the operations group, one was in the product marketing group, and I'm trying to remember where the last one was. I think he was in more of a strategy role. But we just had great... We all had different challenges, different opportunities, different strengths, different growing opportunities. And we were there just to support each other and just share. And all of us just knew there was more for us.
I love that. So micro secrets from Tech Data Corporation. 1, find a mentor. 2, develop an internal peer group or mastermind where you can collaborate and learn. Tell me some other things about managing. I've never managed $1 billion quota before. I like, do you just wake up like stressed, excited? Like, how many salespeople does it take to manage $1 billion quota?
Yeah, so let me put it in perspective, because one of the things I was able to learn early, the only difference between $1 billion and $1 million is like the number of commas. I mean, and I don't mean to minimize it, but sometimes like the smaller numbers are scarier. I swear some of the smaller numbers I've had have been way scarier. Like going from 67 million to $250 million in 3 years was scarier than doing 2.2 billion. And the reason I say that is, what is the machine that you have to go do the business? So in other words, is your organization structured to do 10 million a day? Or like, don't have line of sight to this? And sometimes, the mechanics of my time at Tech Data, it was one of the most operationally efficient, most operationally effective organizations. The rep were some of the most well-trained. We had a massive customer base. It didn't hurt that I had one customer that was doing about 3 million a day with me. Wow. We had dedicated trucks going from our warehouse to their warehouse. So really, that wasn't the scariest. It's just a big number, but it's, are you sized to get it? So it's never like the size of the gap. It's always the structural integrity of the bridge you're on. So just, sometimes you're on one of those rope bridges and it's like really scary, but it's not a big fall. Other times, you're doing the bridge walk in Sydney, Australia, and you're like 1,000 feet in the air, but you're on a massive structure that you just feel good on. So for me, it wasn't the numbers so much as it was, the team, the support, the structure, the operation. It was set up to do the number. We did it.
Yeah, and what was everything that you needed in place, from a sales perspective? Like, did they have like an SDR and an AE team, or was it like all full stack salespeople? And, what was like the biggest thing that you think that contributed to your team hitting quota? Because you kind of talked about your success. Hey, find a mentor, peer group, right? If you had to go back to getting to the $2 billion quota faster, like what would be one of the first things that you would implement from your experience looking back?
Yeah, let's just go back. This is literally, I was at Tech Data from 93 and I left in 99. In 99. So, the internet was just emerging. There was no such thing as an SDR per se.
Right.
I had...
That was before like telesales, really.
Yeah, it was. I had 200 inside telesales reps that were banging out this number. And we were supported by a very lean field force that we worked with. But, all the business was done inside sales. It was probably 80% existing customers calling in, 20% calling out, establishing new relationships.
What was the biggest thing you think to keep those guys motivated? The 200 inside sales reps.
The biggest thing that we did, I'll break it down into three. Number one, they were awesomely trained. I mean, this was a culture of training. 4 days a week, so awesome. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it was a mandatory 50 minutes of training before your shift. So we followed the sun. We had 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock sales teams coming through to support the entire country. Your first 50 minutes was paid training. It was either two 25-minute sections or one full 50. And you badged in. We took it super serious because of all the technology and products that we represented. We want to make sure that, we could deliver a great experience. So the first was training. It was a great place to work. We had a lot of fun. One of the things that you'll see consistent with my attitude and style, I want to have a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that. And then third, there were great incentives.
Got it.
Our reps could do super well. We had a number of spiffs that were always available, contests, trips. So people were super motivated.
That's awesome. Great. So you have this amazing run at Tech Data. And then I remember at Gateway Computers, dude. But I remember the stores with the cows. So you move on to become the VP and GM of Gateway.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Tell me a little bit about that experience. And you were there for almost 5 years. Like, what were some of the biggest learning takeaways, secrets from Gateway?
Yeah, the big thing at Gateway for me was team. I really learned, I had a chance to completely build out my team at Gateway. At Tech Data, I moved into some big opportunities, but didn't build up my team. And, when you have an opportunity to pick your leadership and really start defining the culture and defining what's not, the non-negotiables on your team, the must-haves, the must-dos, like who we are, the identity, like you really start looking at your hires a little bit differently. You learn team like really quick. You learn what happens when you make a bad hire. You learn the impact that you make when you make an extraordinary hire. So for me, it was all about team. And, I had a couple different call centers in the Midwest. I had a field organization across the country. Much of this was built out by myself and the folks that I brought on. So, from a team perspective, it was just a really good opportunity to learn, just team building. Team architecture.
Yeah, that's awesome. And some of the tips about team building and team architecture, like anything come to mind as far as like secrets that we can take away as us as salespeople try to build out the best sales team?
I think the first lesson I learned was don't hire yourself. That didn't work too well for me.
like what do you mean? Like someone that's exactly like you, or
you're sitting down and they got a similar energy, they got a similar attitude. It's like, like you see too much of yourself in them and you think that'll make them right for the role, as opposed to really understanding, like when you're hiring a leader, it's for, a specific piece of the business. What does that group need? Like start with what does that group need in a leader? There may be newer reps that need more coaching and mentoring up front. It may be a more seasoned team that needs to understand the balance and some autonomy, get the proper amount of oversight. And maybe a high growth team where you need a leader that understands growth mechanics, or growth hacking. So, rather than be attracted to something that's very familiar in yourself, it's really starting with the needs of the organization that person's going to go in and hire for them, not yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. So, I remember, was it like just the retail? Did Gateway just like kind of falter because of the retail industry, or what made you decide to leave Gateway?
Yeah, so Gateway certainly was a retail juggernaut. But I worked for Gateway Business,
the B2B side,
against the big bad wolf of Dell. And Dell, Dell, they were. Look, I have a lot of respect for Dell. They did it right. And they put the kind of focus on the business side of the house that we put on the retail side of the house. And at the end, ultimately Gateway's strategy of just putting too much faith in retail in the stores. So they sold off. They sold off the retail division to eMachines, which is a big box retailer that's, you'll still see Gateway and Best Buy today. And then they sold off the professional or the Gateway business to Micron PC. And at that point, I decided, the strategy just wasn't for me from an alignment perspective. Great 5-year run. I still so close to so many of the folks.
Yeah.
As we went through that journey together.
That's awesome. And then you went on to join government acquisitions.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about government acquisitions.
Yeah. So first, they were a customer of mine when I was at Gateway, so that's how I knew them.
Okay, sweet.
They are a federal government contractor based out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, nice. We're out of Columbus, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, so there's great amusement parks in Cincinnati, great restaurants, great sports teams, great Midwest culture. So my wife and I went and did 3 years in Cincinnati.
From Tampa? Were you at Tampa for Gateway?
We were in San Diego with Gateway.
Okay, cool.
Went over to Cincinnati, and great 3-year run. Went from $67 million in revenue, about $248.
Wow.
And that was a scarier run than the bigger number. That was, and we did it with very few salespeople. The company.
So you doubled almost doubled the revenue, like 60 to 120, 120 to 250.
Yeah, I think we did like 67 to about 110, and then 110 to about 248. And we were winning very big government contracts. We won the Treasury, IRS specifically, Homeland Security. I mean, we had some really good contracts, some really big wins. We were doing 68 to 90 million with these customers every year. I mean, it was fun.
It's huge. And I remember working on a bunch of government deals. Like, they're long and brutal. Like, what are your secrets for? I mean, like, there couldn't be a bigger organization than the IRS or the U.S. Treasury. So,
sure, I'll give you two secrets from government acquisition. One is what I took away, and one is how we won the big scale business.
Okay.
And I'll give it's the win team. So we had literally a team that went out and would go after these large procurements. And it was a combination of our bid team, marketing, and sales working in unison to go win these really big contracts and then execute against it. It took the whole company to do it.
Wow.
It was awesome. Like, these are big wins. The whole company gets behind them. You can only go after so many of them effectively at any point in time. So you got to make your bets right. But I'll tell you, the big takeaway for me as an individual, it's really where I learned what I call ownership mentality.
Okay.
Ownership mentality. So I worked for a privately held company. They took no backing.
Which is tough. Tough to do.
Well, the guy that founded and ran the business as the president and CEO was phenomenal. But, when you're looking at, and not that every penny mattered, but every penny mattered. Like, the mindset and really that ownership.
That bootstrapped mindset.
Yeah, like even when he wasn't bootstrapped, like we were bootstrapped. Like it was like you never lose that attitude toward managing the business tight, accountability for all parts of the business. It was phenomenal and really reshaped the way that I think about running business. Like just the other day we're making some decisions here. And, I told my team, I said, hey, I'm going to bias on being cheap on decisions. Like I'm an owner. Like, why spend $100 if you can spend 70?
Love that.
Like 30 more bucks that we can put towards something else in the organization. And so I give a lot of that back to my time in government acquisitions.
That's amazing. That bootstrapped mindset, and then partnering with the whole team to go after these multi-million-dollar deals.
Yeah.
Huh. How do you get everyone excited about the deal? Like when you're doing this like 10, 20, $50 million deal, and you've got people that aren't in sales that are pivotal to helping you win the deal, which I'm sure are a lot of them.
Yeah.
How do you get everyone in alignment on your side to work their ass off to get the deal done?
Yeah, it's good. But I mean, the culture of the company was that. I mean, like no convincing was needed. We had the right makeup. People were in roles to go win business. And, you have to have a couple things in place to win big deals. One is called past performance. Like you're not going to get awarded a $70 million government contract if you're going to go do this for the first time.
Right.
Two, your partners, your subs on the contract. Like, no organization is going to be able to do everything. So how you put your teaming arrangements in place and who you're going to partner with, matters. So it's your past performance, it's your teaming agreements that you have in place. And then third, it's your win strategy. Like how are we going to go execute and show that we can meet the business outcomes of these government agencies?
That's amazing. I love it. So, you guys double the business year over year. Any other secrets from government acquisitions before we go into something that I'm really excited to go into at Tony Robbins companies?
Jump to Tony,
Anything else you'd like to share about takeaways from government acquisitions?
No, we're good.
Awesome. So, Anthony Robbins companies, VP of Sales. So, what does this mean? Like, are you like in the room with Tony, like next to him, and you're like, hey, Tony, man, like we got to make more calls. I'm going to be pounding this out. I need you to do more events. Like, or is it no, like he's busy, I had the opportunity to work with a guy like Tony Robbins and it was incredible. Like I'm excited to hear about this experience.
Yeah, so I worked for Tony. We spent a whole bunch of time together. We got to travel the world and impact a whole bunch of folks and a whole bunch of companies in the process, with Tony doing his work. The one thing I always get asked, like Tony's the real deal. Like the Tony that you see, there's only one Tony. He's a force of nature. And I would just say if you've seen Tony, it's awesome. If you haven't had a chance to see him, you ought to. We have a great saying, like anyone that spent time with Tony, for those of us that were there, no words are needed. For those of us that weren't, no words would do.
That's
just got to go experience, Tony.
That's amazing. So, because, I want to positively impact 1 billion people here at Seamless. And one of the guys I look up to is Tony. Like, and I want to dive into your sales experience there. But like, what were the, like the daily habits, routines of this guy from morning to closing? Like since you got to work side by side with him?
Yeah, I would just say Tony is the most congruent human I've ever had a chance to interact with. And what I mean by congruent is like everything that you hear Tony talk about, whether you've seen his videos, his audios in person, that's who he is. And so I'll start with what I took away from Tony above all else is mindset. Like, and the way I define mindset is your attitude toward the business, your attitude toward yourself, your attitude toward your relationships, your attitude toward your experiences. And we'll talk more about mindset because that's one of the things that I've carried on with me. But Tony just redefined what's possible. Tony redefined like how you should think about it. And even in terms of like how he structures the day, Tony doesn't structure the day in time. Like time is not a measure in Tony's world. Outcome is the measure. Outcome. So if you can get your job done by 5, great, go home. But you go home when you get your job done. Like time is not a line.
So it's basically like if you had to do this task, like time is irrelevant, just get the task done however long it takes.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter when the task starts or stops. Like you can get the task at 1 a.m. when you're overseas in Singapore with an event starting the next morning. Like it just doesn't, like time is just irrelevant. Like something's got to get done. And like nobody marshals people to be resourceful like Tony. It's not about resources. It's about being resourceful. And I'll give you an example of how that shows up in real life. And I bring this with me to my current day with folks I work with. It's called accountability partners. So one of the things that great people can do is you and I could call each other up first thing in the morning, my first call every day, and I'm going to commit to you. I'm going to promise to you what I am going to achieve today. And I now have put it out there where I'm now accountable. And you're my last call. So it could be at 5 o'clock, it could be at midnight. And I'm going to call you up and say, got it. Like I am not going to stop working until I achieve it. And I've got so many examples of the power of this, where like even when I've got a rep on a performance improvement plan, I go, hey, we're going to start playing first call, last call. I want you to call me first thing in the morning with what you're going to get done today against your most important opportunities and tell me how you're going to make it great. Like the 3 things you're going to do in a great way. And whenever the day's over for you, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. I want you to call me up. I want you to talk to me about how you got those 3 things done. Like, don't call until you do, but you better call. And the reps really appreciate that because
I love that. First call, last call.
First call, last call.
It's awesome.
Yeah, like you mean a lot, and we got to get you healthy. Like if you think about health for a minute and just how you lead people, I use the example of, God forbid you were in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
How often would the doctor come by to check on you?
Every day.
Maybe.
Right? Or no?
Well, it depends how sick you are.
True.
Like literally, it depends how sick. If you're literally ready for discharge tomorrow and everything's great, doc will come in once. He or she will look at your chart, make sure you took your medication, and you're done. But if you're like really sick, you're in a place called intensive care or ICU, and you've got like monitors on you. If you skip one heartbeat, an alarm goes off. So your team isn't all at the same stage of health. So some of your reps you check in once a day, they don't need as much, but some of your reps are like really sick. They need first call, last call, and most likely some medicine in the middle.
I love that. I love that secret of don't treat all your reps the same. Like some are going to be healthier than others.
I talk to everybody who works for me at least once a day. But how I interact with them, when I interact with them, and the level of intensity really depends about how well they're doing in the organization and what they need from me.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When it comes to the biggest things that you learned from working with Tony, like, I get the mindset and the big goals. Everyone could be like, okay, you got to have massive goals. You got to have this limitless mindset, which Tony preaches a lot about. But like, how does he stay so motivated? And then B, like, how does, what were some of the biggest things that you learned from him?
Yeah, so I'll share another one. So one's called a gratitude state. So for instance, I used to be like not very comfortable getting up on stage, or I wouldn't even be comfortable talking with you today. It's a muscle that I had to build over time. One of the things that I picked up from Tony, though, is called gratitude state. And when you're in a state of gratitude, you will not be in a state of stress or fear. And one of the things I learned was that gratitude and stress, gratitude and fear cannot coexist a space at the same time. So you can choose. Like you can choose if you're feeling grateful, or you can choose if you're feeling stressed. So one of the things that I'll do before I go up on stage it's a two-part process. First, I'm going to look at a picture of my daughter. I've got a really funny picture of my daughter that she put on my phone for me. Like every time I'm not looking, she grabs my phone and just starts taking crazy pictures of herself with it. And but I'll look at one of those pictures and immediately, just like you did, I smile, right? So like warms my heart, I'll smile.
That's awesome.
And then there's a song I listen to. And everyone's got that song. Everyone's got a song. You're driving in your car, you hear the song, your foot goes right down to the floor. You're driving way too fast. You know, or it brings you back to a
Love that. Yeah.
There's a song I listen to. So I see the picture, I listen to the song, and literally within 10 seconds of the picture, about the first 45 seconds of the song, I feel invincible, like unstoppable. No stress, no fear. I know I'm prepared. I know I got this. I jump right in, I deliver.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's just managing your state. It's just managing, because I get a little anxiety before I'm going to go.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I always get anxiety with speaking.
What we're doing today, I've got to be here and help deliver with you.
Yeah, that's incredible. So this grateful state, like if you're in this grateful mental state, you're saying like kind of like what you learned with working with Tony is it blocks out. So if you're grateful, you can't there's not a grateful state and a stress state combined.
Well, they can't coexist the same time and space. So even yourself, you just think about, successes you've had, relationships you have, learnings and adventures. I mean, these are all things that can create like gratitude. You can be grateful for so many things in life, people, experiences, success, the failures that made you better. We're grateful for those. Sometimes we don't making the same ones over, right? But all of those are things that we can be super appreciative for. And if we can just slow down and remember those, I mean, even people that do their vision boards, things that they're moving towards, these are all things that really help us just manage our state, keep us very focused on what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I love it. Did you and him like have like a gratitude journal, or was it just you just like mentally think about it?
Yeah, we had look, working for Tony is like none other. But anybody that's supporting Tony and his mission, while you're with Tony, you're family.
Right.
You are family. You are on the journey with Tony and his organization. And there's a lot of special moments that you share, a lot of moments that you're not going to forget, a lot of learnings. And I'm super grateful for the amount of time. I was with Tony for 4 years. And like every one of those days, every one of those experiences stays with me. It's very special.
Was it hard to keep up with him?
It is. Tony will make you rethink what's possible.
That's awesome, man.
We ran hard.
And when you say what do you mean by that? Rethink what's possible? Like just challenge? Like what do you mean by that? Let me give you
an example. It won't even be so one of the folks that used to work at Robbins organization with me, he lives in Denver. He was coming to LA to run meetings the following week. And his first meeting was Monday morning at 9 a.m. And he calls me on a Friday afternoon from Denver and he goes, Matt, my Monday morning meeting at 9 a.m. just canceled. Now, it's Friday afternoon about 4 o'clock. What will most reps do in that situation?
Just go home, go to the bar or whatever. Just call it a day.
At 10. Yeah. I'll just run my first meeting at 10. Well, here's someone who's super accountable, comes from the Robbins organization. He's flying in from Denver to LA to run a series of meetings and generate some business. He said to me, Matt, I'm telling you right now, the next call you get from me will be I filled my 9 a.m. meeting on Monday. Now, it's 4:30 in Denver, or in LA, so it's 5:30 Denver time.
And which means and West Coast or East Coast it's later.
Right, it's later. People that he wants to run meetings with are most likely not in the office or leaving the office. I get a call Saturday afternoon, 3:40ish. Matt, I filled my 9 a.m. slot Monday. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Love that.
Yeah, who else does that?
I love the whatever it takes type of people, coworkers. It's nothing better.
Yeah, Brett Figueroa. So if Brett, you're out there, and he's a sales coach, but these are the folks that they're just so committed to whatever they're committed to that it's at a level where they'll do whatever it takes. They stop doing what's convenient. Like most people will do what's convenient. It's convenient, to work. It's so deep. It's convenient to start the meetings a little bit later. That's great. That's what most people do. But if you want the greatest rewards, you want to do the best that you possibly can, convenience has to go away, and you have to have this attitude of I'll do whatever it takes to the best of my ability and a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you have this.
Don't do what's convenient.
Right. Yeah. They just take the easy way out.
I'll share one more thing.
Please.
Along that line, since
Please
we're here now. But I would say everybody knows to do that. Like, I'm not giving you a secret. Like, oh, I didn't know to fill my meeting. I didn't know to make calls. I didn't know to do my job. Everybody knows what to do. Not everybody does what they know.
It's
and I'll
so
tell
hard.
you, there's any like takeaway. It's for your listeners. I'm going to give everyone a ton of credit. You know what to do. Like, you listen to these podcasts because you want the edge and you want that one, which is awesome, but you know the fundamentals. And most people just don't do what they know. Even the ones that are tuning in, not everyone's going to take these tips and incorporate them in. Some will. And they're at the top of the leaderboard. They're getting the trips. They're making the bigger checks. You see it all around you. But do what you know.
Yep. And do the hard things, right?
Yeah, do the hard thing. And sometimes they're not hard. Like I do something here called 5 after 5. I didn't invent it. Like, I'm not taking credit.
What is 5 after 5?
My reps here make 5 calls after 5. And our connect rate on the 5 after 5 is significantly better than the calls that you typically make when people are typically not picking up the phone at their desk.
Oh, man. Should make it the 50 after 5. That's awesome. Yeah.
After 5. You can make it whatever you want. But the point is, like, what are you doing after 5? Most people are wrapping up their day.
Yep. Throwing in the towel.
Most people. So you want 5 after 5, 50 after 5, I love it. Whatever you want to do, but do something after 5 or whenever.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's a great tip. I love that. I love that secret. So you travel the world with Tony. You do that for 4 years. And then you get this opportunity to join T-Mobile.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. I'll never forget. I was at Disneyland in Anaheim with my family, and I get a call from a buddy who was at T-Mobile. So long story, he used to be at Gateway when I was at Gateway. Now he's at T-Mobile. And T-Mobile was looking to do something very similar to what Gateway had done. And this guy had done it and thought I'd be a really good match and potentially uniquely positioned and qualified to go help T-Mobile do this.
Wow.
And so I'm in Anaheim. And
this is the second job opportunity you have from Gateway. First was the government acquisitions, and now T-Mobile. Keep going.
That's right. And then that's why you always got to do your best work, because you never know who you're talking to.
Small world.
It's a very small world.
Small world.
I just don't want to clean it. So I said, "Where's T-Mobile again?" And the guy goes, "Seattle." And I'm back in San Diego now with Tony. And I said to my wife, I said, "Hey, would you entertain an opportunity in Seattle?" She goes, "We'll think about it." All right. So long story short, I started interviewing with T-Mobile and really liked the brand. Like, I really liked, at the time, they were getting their ass kicked. We were losing 500,000 subscribers a quarter.
Wow.
They had to do something to reinvigorate themselves. And I want to go join an underdog, and take some of the mindset and some of the attitude that I'd taken from Tony and go infuse that in a big company.
Ah, that's cool.
And it did that. It was a great opportunity. And, T-Mobile today, like John Ledger and team, what they've been able to do from a turnaround perspective is phenomenal. And my big thing, though, at T-Mobile, like, if I took away anything, is probably some of the most fun I've ever had professionally up to that point. Like, I really was able to be like T-Mobile, like you could be yourself. Well, as a big company, like you could be who you were and lead within that construct. And I had a great time. I had a phenomenal team, super, super strong team, national responsibility, and we had a blast, absolute blast. Strong brand, underdog.
So what did you guys do? Like, what were some of the sales secrets for fight? Like, I mean, because it sounds stressful. It sounds like exhausting. Like, okay, I've got this brand that's losing market share year over year. Thank gosh you were with Tony Robbins, because that probably, if you weren't there, you may have not wanted to take on that task. Like, what were some of the secrets to overcoming those obstacles at T-Mobile?
Yeah, I think the first thing, the minute I joined, literally within a week I joined, AT&T announced a proposed takeover, merger. So like that year was all about, hey, let's just kind of keep everything moving. And I'm like, no, I want to win big. Like, the company was kind of preparing for this massive juggernaut to come in, and like our team, like we just plowed forward. Like it was business as usual for us. And
oh, that's awesome.
And we just like, let's just go get as much business as we can. The AT&T makes for a good talk track. Like, so customers are curious to what's going
great
on.
Talk track.
It was a great opportunity just to parlay that. Let's get some business. And then, when it failed, like we had like, holy crap, we got to do something big. And, we had new leadership come in, new network strategy come in, like marketing, like completely retool the thinking around this uncarrier, like this disruptive brand. And the entire company just embraced this like rebel cause of getting
so cool.
And, we went from losing 500,000 subscribers a quarter, where they would go quarter, just a million ads. They're just outpacing Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint combined. I mean, it's just such a great turnaround story, and participating in that, that whole momentum piece, and then really translating, a large consumer juggernaut brand into like a business identity. T-Mobile for work. Like, how do we bring this brand into business and get taken seriously? What unique offering? How can we differentiate ourselves not only with our product but our people? I'll never forget, we would wear these magenta T-shirts. You'll see it all. Like if you see John Ledger on Squawk Box, he's going to be all branded out.
Yeah.
Negotiation with a very big state for a state contract, because I had government responsibility in business. So we're negotiating with one of the largest states in the country. It was our lawyers, their lawyers. It was literally a 1.5-year sales cycle, really down to the final negotiation. And I was wearing, jeans, a nice button-down shirt, just a sport coat. I walk in, and literally the customer says, like, where are your T-shirts? Like, where are the magenta? Where are the pink T-shirts? Like our brand was so powerful that a bunch of big state lawyers were saying, where are the T-shirts?
Yeah, I love that.
And you just know. And at lunch, went to one of the local stores and grabbed T-shirts and went back in and just, we branded up. It was like a big lesson. Like, just lose the coat, lose the shirt, grab the T-shirt, and, be who you are.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because I saw the power of the T-shirt thing running Seamless.ai, and we have these big blue Seamless.ai T-shirts with the logo. It's so nice going into, I used to go to trade shows and events, in suit, and, no one knows who you are, what you do, your name, or anything. And then, 3 years ago, I was like, well, I'm just going to show up in these T-shirts, and, everyone's like, so, okay, you're with Seamless.ai. What is that? How do you do it? And it's a total icebreaker. It just, there's no, who are you and what do you do? There's no awkward intro. I love it. That's awesome. When it comes to, you'd mentioned that you were able to, one of the other secrets, and so the branding and doing whatever it takes to brand, with the T-shirts and those deals. The other secret you had mentioned was you pushing forward despite hearing a big win or a huge company change. This was one of the biggest mergers and acquisitions in history, AT&T acquiring T-Mobile, and you guys just still found it in you to just like, hey guys, like let's just push forward. I feel like that's a huge kind of micro secret. Like, I don't know if that's like with winning deals or with what, to always be just pushing full force forward.
Well, who are you, right? Like your identity. Like, who are you? Like, I'm a winner. I want to go win. Like, I didn't come here to hang out for a year while this merger goes or doesn't go. Like, I only know one speed. It's like, put the pedal down and just go fast. Like, so I'm going to do that until you tell me to go somewhere else. Like, and if your team is constructed of winners and closers and doers and fire starters and rainmaker, like just all the things that you want on your team, like that's what they're going to go do.
I love that, dude.
So it's like, who are you? Like, what's your identity? The most powerful force in the human spirit is the need to stay consistent with the identity you create for yourself. Like, so if you're a doer, a winner, a closer, you just got to go do it because that's who you are.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. So you have this incredible run at T-Mobile, and then, one of our partners, customers, you join Outreach.io.
Yeah.
So, going from T-Mobile business sales to Tony Robbins to sales workflow automation company. And by the way, I love Manny and Andrew and Mark. Like, love the crew. Like, Max, like just huge fans of those guys, like all of them just building a sales tech software here at Seamless. Like, I've always looked up to them and have a lot of respect for Manny and the company that he's built. How do you get involved with Outreach, and what made you decide to join them?
Yeah, so it's great. I'll never forget, I started getting prospected by a rep at Outreach. And
got it. Like for them to sell T-Mobile their sales workflow tool.
Yeah, and I literally was getting prospected, as you can imagine, quite a bit. And there was something very different about my Outreach rep. He was everywhere all the time. He was on my LinkedIn profile. I was getting voicemails and emails. Like, it was such a well-orchestrated and coordinated prospecting effort. I'll never forget. And I'm a guy, I get to my desk at about 6:30 in the morning every day. And so I get in super early, and there's an email from Ushir, my Outreach rep, just right to the point, really good. So I respond back, and literally phone rings in 30 seconds, and it's Ushir. I'm like, dude, like,
that's awesome.
This is amazing. Like, you got me, man. This is so good. Like, what do you do? He goes, this is what I do. He goes, I can help your team get 30% more meetings. And I'm like, dude, I need more meetings. I had like 900 reps, and our whole business was based on having 10 meetings set, running 8 meetings, and we could run our metrics off that. But we weren't doing 10 a day.
Those are like
6.
Those are my exact metrics.
Meetings was like killer for me. So I'm like, dude, get in here. And so Manny had joined Rushir on the sales call. And, I fell in love with Manny. I was blown away by Outreach in the meeting. And Manny and I started, having some dinners after that, just getting to know each other. And I don't know, 5 months later, I joined the team at Outreach. They had a great 2.5-year run. Love them, love what they're doing. Fantastic tech.
That's incredible, man. And so, like, was it, because I know Mark was leading sales, so was this like your peer with Marquez Glow, or like how did that work? Like, they were just getting a bunch of different VPs of revenue up, or?
No, so Mark was running sales. I'd come in. So Mark reported to me, and over the 2.5 years, we made a lot of, we talked about we went from 5 million to 50 million in 2.5 years or so. So it was a pretty big run.
Jesus.
You can imagine the amount of talent that came in, customer success ultimately spun off. We brought in some strong leadership. So just, you just need
5 million to 50 million. That's insane. Okay, so dude, come on. Let's get into the details and the secrets of that. That's a 10x growth, right? In what, 2.5 years?
Yes.
So what are some of the secrets like that drove a 10x growth?
Let's start with, number one, fantastic tech at a time when this tech is sorely needed. I mean,
I totally agree.
It is
amazing
awesome
product.
Number two, incredible people. Manny, Kinzer, Mark, just across the board there, people that care a ton about the customer, a ton about what they're doing, and then, navigating the sea of change in terms of, as competitors start coming in, you can only imagine, Salesforce comes in from the top, you got some competitors that are in the space, you got folks coming in from the bottom, so it's great. You got to stay super true to what you're doing and, really helping with the workflows that revenue-facing individuals have and stay committed to that.
Yep. And then what were some of the things that you did as the VP of Revenue to just drive that growth?
The first thing is as best you can is to stay ahead of the growth. So you're moving so fast that if you're solving today's challenges, you're late.
Okay.
You really got to be running forward in terms of anticipating as you're segmenting your sales organization into enterprise versus mid-market versus small. And, thinking about how you're organizing your team. Are you going to have them decentralized across the country? You're going to have them centralized somewhere. I mean, just all these decisions and go-to-market strategies. From an execution perspective, how your AEs are spending their time, how much prospecting are they doing, how you're structuring the SDR organization, how pods or round robin, or just you just continue to try and
test and optimize.
How you just optimize to stay ahead of just this massive growth curve.
Yeah, because you guys had a big SDR team in Seattle. You had a big one in Tampa, right? Mm-hmm.
And the East Coast in State College, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yeah. So you've got these 3 different kind of SDR offices.
Yeah.
And then at over your duration, do you remember how many SDRs and AEs you had when you started and then when you finished?
Yeah, when we started, we probably had 8 to 10 SDRs and 6 AEs.
So 8 to 10 SDRs and 6 AEs got you to the 5 million, and then to get to the 50 million.
Close to 40 AEs and probably 32 or 34 SDRs.
Oh, sorry, I lost my audio. Keep going.
Yeah, so we finished with about 34-ish SDRs and close to 40 AEs.
Oh, wow. That's incredible, man. 34 SDRs.
But I'll tell you, the biggest thing I took from outreach was sales process. The need for a well-defined, well-executed sales process. And the reps that follow the process were the reps that won more than the reps that didn't.
And did you guys create the process? I love that secret, by the way. The ones that follow the process win, and the ones that don't win. I see that all the time. When did you create the process and you said SDRs, you guys follow this process, AEs follow this process. We know it's proven to work, and just trust us, follow it and execute it. Is that 10x growth is big. So there had to have been some fundamental things that you instituted or did, I assume, that drove that growth.
Yeah, it's a we, not a me. So the we, sales leadership, sales enablement, and we partnered with, we had a great product marketing director, and we would do a number of things. One, we would continually refine our discovery talk track, our scoping talk track, our proposal talk track, and really just nail it. But also our messaging, our languaging, our story, just constant, and then, compete. There was a weekly compete meeting that we would have where we're constantly evaluating what was going on and then what changes, what we incorporate into it, how we sold, how we demoed, how we scoped. So it was very, very alive. It's always on.
Is it exhausting going up against the same competitors over and over and over again?
Well, I think it's great. I love competition for many. Number one, the first thing a competitor does, it validates what you're doing. Like, so for anyone that thinks whatever you're doing, there's more than one person doing it, boom. Number two is it makes you stronger. Like you can go up against like any competitor, and you've got to be strong. Like you've got to not only know how you sell, you got to know how they sell. And it forces your organization to innovate, right? To have something like, how do you differentiate? Because we weren't price leaders, right? So how do you put together a value proposition in terms of what you're delivering? And ultimately, like, you got to solve a customer's problem and you articulate that. So if you can solve your customer's problem in a better way than your competitor, but I love competition. Absolutely love it.
That's awesome. And then, so you have this great 2.5-year run at Outreach, and then you recently, congrats by the way, become the CRO at FLEXE, right? On-demand warehousing.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about that, but what is this, like the new Amazon model, or like what does this mean?
It's exactly what it is. We've got two main customers. America's best brands, rely on us to put an agile layer over their fixed warehousing strategies. So there's peaks and valleys, and you can imagine, like in holiday season, where some of these organizations do 10 to 20 times the order volume. So their network of warehouses and distribution centers are handled for the normal flow, but for that 10 to 20x, they need an agile layer without getting into long-term commitments and contracts. And that's where FLEXE comes in.
Wow.
Do retail fulfillment, e-com fulfillment, overflow, on demand. You pay for what you use, and then you get right back out again. We do longer. We can do 3-year engagements or 30-day engagements.
Dude, I love that.
And
That's incredible.
It's creating a new truth. I tell everyone, like, Uber did not create ride for hire. They just made it great. Like everything you hated about a taxi, Uber made great. And we did not invent warehousing and contract logistics. We're making it great. We
That's
took
awesome.
all the shit that you hate about it and just made that go away, and we made it great.
Wow. Well, I'm super excited for your new role there. And just so we could get to the final top sales secret, we've covered probably 50 to 100 different sales secrets on the show so far. Matt Millen, I'd love to hear, now that we've gone through your whole sales career, and it's been a hell of a run, and you're just getting started. Congrats again at FLEXE in the new position as CRO there. Sales secrets from the top 1%. If you had to go back in time to give yourself just one sales secret to maximize your sales success, what, why, and how? Let's cover the what. What is your top sales secret?
Well, if I could share one thing, and it's my methodology that I bring, it's called S.A.M, story, activity, and mindset.
Okay, S.A.M. Story, activity, mindset.
Activity, and mindset. What are those three? Story. These are the words that come out of your mouth. These are the conversations that you have all day. Know your story. Be compelling, be confident, be relevant. Like, you got to have the story with energy, with passion, conviction. Sales is a transfer of energy. You got to get it. There's 5 objections you get all day. Know how to handle them. You don't have time, money, interest, whatever it is. Like, if you only get 5 objections, you better know how to handle these in a great way.
I love that.
There's someone who can. Got to get your story. You can't tell a story, you can't sell. Activity, how you spend your time. Like, it matters. How you spend your time matters. 5 after 5, the accountability, right? Take your story to the street and do it as many times as you possibly can.
Over and over and over again.
And get better and better. Get your conversions better and better, right? You want to just get better. Figure out how to do it at scale if you possibly can.
And that comes into your process secret that you gave with before. Okay.
And the last is mindset. Like, it's your attitude toward the business. I would just say, like, look, I can teach you the story. I can help. I can coach you through the activity. But you got to hire people with the right attitude, the right mindset. This is something, it's just, I believe it's one of those, like, I can't coach you to be taller. Like, you got a higher height. And I look for a mindset. Like, what's your attitude? Are you naturally busy? Do you are you the guy that, or the gal that bitches about something? Or are you like, screw it. That doesn't matter to me. It doesn't get my way. Like, I'm focused. I'm still moving forward. And like mindset matters. And mindset, while you hire it, it's a byproduct of your culture. like your culture. Your culture can foster a great mindset. When your reps know that you got their back, when your reps know that you got the back of their customer, when you do the right thing, like you can be counted on, and you're going to make it fun because people are working super hard, and you're going to be able to cut it up and be real. Boom.
Story, activity, and mindset. SAM. I love it. So, I mean, you got to know your story. You got to execute the massive amounts of activity, and you got to have the right attitude towards the business.
Yeah.
How, for the listeners that hear, okay, I have to, what would you say? I have to master my SAM. I have to execute SAM. Like, what's a good header for this chapter in the book? Know your SAM, or just SAM, story, activity, mindset.
SAM I am, right? Green eggs and ham. SAM I am.
All right, there we go. SAM I am. What's your recommendation for if you hired a new rep? You tell them, hey, you got to know SAM I am. You got to know your story, your activity, and you got to have the right mindset. Like, what would you tell that person so that they could start executing this sales secret today?
Well, the first thing is, before you get to that point, are they capable to do it? Not everybody is. So I'm assuming you hired someone capable. And number two, do they promise to do it? Remember, everyone knows what to do, but they don't do what they know. So do you promise to do the job if I give it to you? You're capable, but do you promise to do it? And you got to hold people to their promises. So you're capable, you promised, or you're committed, and now it's on you to onboard them in a great way. So they're capable of telling the story. They understand the sales process. They're going to execute against that with the right activity and the right conversion. And then as a culture leader, we're creating an environment where people can be their best, do their best. They're going to run through walls because that's who they are.
I love that. SAM I am. Story, activity, mindset. You have to know your story, you have to execute the activity, and you have to have the right growth mindset and attitude to do whatever it takes to be successful. Matt Millen, where can the audience learn from you, subscribe from you, connect with you for more top sales secrets and information and expertise?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I respond and reply to all notes, and would love to get some feedback and share. And in all sincerity, I want to learn from as many of your listeners, and I do from yourself. I appreciate all the videos that you post and everything that you share with your community. Keep it coming.
Yeah, man, I'm coming for Tony Robbins. No, I'm just kidding.
You're going to go, and I'll make sure they get you a great seat.
Yeah, there we go. No, I really appreciate it. Audience out there, follow Matt Millen on LinkedIn. He's everywhere on LinkedIn. Hit him up and connect with him. And also follow his new company, FLEXE, FLEXE. And Matt, truly appreciate you sharing SAM I am, your top sales secret with the audience, as well as the many others that we've covered in today's episode. And again, thank you, audience, for tuning in to this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. You can pick up a copy of the book, the podcast, everything we got at secretsalesbook.com. That's secretsalesbook.com, secretsalesbook.com. Thank you for tuning in, and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. We're everywhere. You can find us, and connect and subscribe. Talk soon.